Now, first of all, I want to start by saying, with all of our hearts, I know we condemn what's going on in the United States right now with the increased hostility to trans people. We condemn what's going on in various states with the increased attacks on women and the restrictions on reproductive freedom. I personally deeply condemn what's going on in Israel right this week. The government passed a horrific, draconian budget which will destroy the state of Israel with its financial priorities, and the money is all going streamed to the ultra-Orthodox and to the special interests of the most right-wing ministers. I condemn all of that. So just don't worry. If that's what the Drashah you came for, don't worry, I condemn it all. But I want to talk about something else tonight. So just mark it as condemned, and if you need to tell people that your rabbi condemned and talked about it, that's fine. Go ahead. But I want to talk about something else tonight. I want to talk about Shavuot tonight. So first of all, what is Shavuot? What does the word itself mean? Weeks. Shavua is one, right? Shavua. Shavuot are weeks. And we call it that because it's 7 weeks. Remember, we've been counting the Omer for 49 days. So it's 7 weeks it's 7 of 7 weeks. How do you say that? 7 weeks. 7 times 7 is 49. I'll say it that way. And so we started counting the Omer from Pesach. Some people even say Shavuot originally wasn't its own holiday. It was really the end of Pesach because we do it Atzeret to kind of conclude Pesach. I'll leave that debate aside for right now. But in the Bible, how is Shavuot described? Does anybody know what is the words that we use for Shavuot, or how does the Bible refer to Shavuot? Does it say Zman Matan Toratenu? Does it talk about Mount Sinai? Or does it talk? What are the names for this Shavuot? Anybody know? This is kind of a what? Exactly, Yom HaBikurim. It is the day of the first fruits, which has special meaning in our community, of course. So it is the holiday of the day of the first fruits. And it is also called Chag HaKatzir, the holiday of the harvest, because it's the beginning of the harvest season that ends with Sukkot. So in some ways, this is nowhere in the Bible. And Joel, thank you for being here. Joel is going to be my ringer on all of this, I can tell. So I've got a kind of spoiler alert. Nowhere in the Bible does it talk about connecting the revelation at Mount Sinai to this festival. Zero, zilch, it's not in the Bible. The Bible talks about this holiday as being somehow related to the agricultural roots, related to the season of first fruits, and of the festival, which, by the way, if you go to Israel for any observance of Shavuot, it has been very much a holiday on the kibbutzim that celebrates with greenery and with collecting fruits and vegetables, things like that. But it is historically in the Bible not at all connected to Mount Sinai. Okay, who's a little shocked by that? Most people are, because we think of Shavuot now really as deeply, okay, you're shy, so you're not raising your hands, but I know you're shocked, okay? Okay, I'll assume you're shocked. You should be shocked, because when we talk about Shavuot today, much of what we talk about is observing the historical root of this time, which is the giving of the Torah. This is really a fantastic example of how Judaism evolves, and evolves in very creative and thoughtful ways. It is in rabbinic literature where Shavuot is tied to Matan Torah, the giving of the Torah. Of course, the story of Sinai and of the giving of Torah is in the Bible, but it's not at all given. We don't have any date that it's connected to. So not only did the rabbis link it to this holiday, but there's tremendous literature that we have in our midrash that tells the story in great detail. And I won't go into the enormous detail, but I'll give you the arc of the story. We're told, of course, that Pesach takes place when the Israelites get out of slavery and they cross the sea and they get to the desert. That is, of course, the story of Pesach. That happens 3 months later, according to our rabbinic. My allergies are a lot better, but clearly not totally. They get out, and on the Rosh Chodesh Sivan, the first day of the month of Sivan, they arrive at Mount Sinai. On the second day, Moses tells them what is going to happen. Moses says to them, guess what? God's going to give you the Torah, and I'm going to tell you what the Torah says. The people say to Moses, we don't want you to tell us. We don't totally trust you. You're a little nutty. We want to talk to God directly. So on the third day, Moses goes up, talks to God. God says, it's okay, I'll talk to them directly. So on the fourth day, they're told to get ready, to prepare, to dress up, to prepare for this great moment. And on the sixth or the seventh day, there's debate about which it is, but good news for us. In the diaspora, we do Shavuot on both the sixth and the seventh. The revelation at Sinai takes place. We're told great drama, thunder, lightning. We're told they see the thunder and hear the lightning, which of course there's dozens of pages of midrash on that. But God speaks directly to the people for the first two of the 10 commandments. We're told in the midrash, after each one, the people from the intensity of the moment, the entire Israelite people die. God resurrects them. They listen to the second 10 commandments, number 2. They die again. God resurrects them. And then the people go to Moses and say, you know what? Maybe it was a bad idea talking directly to God. We think, I'm not making this up, by the way. This is midrash. We think, right, Joel? Joel's probably actually studied this in yeshiva. Am I right? I'm basically telling the rabbinic literature. So the people say to Moses, you know what? Maybe that was a bad idea we had. Maybe it was a good idea for you to be the intermediary. Will you do it for the final 8? So that's what happens. But here's another great piece of this story. What happened on the morning of this? So we had from Rosh Chodesh Sivan, which is the first of Sivan, to the 6th, when according to the rabbinic tradition, the actual revelation takes place. The 10 commandments are taught to the people, and there's thunder and lightning and drama. Guess what the Israelites did that morning? Anybody know? Joel? What? They overslept. They didn't wake up on time. Moses had to wake them up on time. And some people say that's where we get the tradition of staying up all night for the Tikkun Leil Shavuot, to make up for the fact that the Israelites overslept on the morning of this great moment. You can't make this up, right? I mean, it's just fantastic. It is so creative. I just love all these midrashim. So they get the final 8 of the Aseret HaDibrot. They're not really commandments. They're dibrot, as we say in Hebrew. They're sayings, because we'll look at them in a moment to talk about what they actually are. And somebody asked me this, Bonnie Pollack, I think, asked me this when I came in, or there's a discussion. Was it only the 10 commandments that were given on Shavuot, or the entire Torah? Tradition has it was only the 10 commandments on Shavuot itself. And the Torah took place. Moses was up on the mountain for 40 days. And it was during that period that the whole Torah was given. But Shavuot itself, and that's why the 10 commandments are in particular associated with Shavuot. They're given on Shavuot itself. But Moses stays up there for 40 days, comes down in 40 days from now, which is, I think it's the 17th of Tammuz or something like that. Is that right? Woo! Amazing. And it comes down on the 17th of Tammuz, which is the next month, of course. But guess what happens when Moses comes down? Egel HaZahav, the golden calf. So that original 10 commandments, which were given on Shavuot of that first year out of slavery, Moses breaks that set. We know that story. Moses argues a lot with God. Who does he kill? Who gets killed? Should they get forgiven? Should the Jews be forgiven? This is a very dramatic 6-month period from leaving slavery. Just think about it. They just left slavery. That's why they went for that Egel HaZahav. And then, of course, on Rosh Chodesh Elul, Moses goes back up the mountain again. And many of you have heard me tell this story because it's so meaningful. 40 days, he's up there again. So he's up on the mountain for 80 days total, comes down the second time, after 40 days, his second 40 days. This is the ultimate story of second chances and not giving up and trying again, even when it's been a total bust, a total failure. The second time he comes down, 40 days later, it's the 10th of Tishrei, which is, of course, Yom Kippur. And that is why Yom Kippur is located, according to our tradition, where it is in the Bible on the 10th day of the month of Tishrei. He comes down full of the forgiveness of God. So Shavuot itself is linked to Yom Kippur. In some ways, you can imagine tonight or last night, depending when you are observing, we're beginning the journey towards being back at the Javits Center for Yom Kippur. In some ways, it's starting right now, quite literally, because this is linked in our tradition to the first try. And there were so many mistakes that were made on Shavuot: oversleeping, not being able to absorb God's words directly, needing an intermediary, then rejecting it altogether with the Egel HaZahav, feeling total panic. This is human. This is such a human story, even if it has these fantastic elements to it. And it's only on the second time that Moses comes down that we have the second Matan Toratenu. But guess what? Shavuot is known in our people as the giving of the Torah. But it's not known as Kabbalat Torah. The name of the holiday that we use when we talk about Shavuot isn't the acceptance, the receiving of Torah, it's the giving. And this is something some of you have heard me talk about a lot, that Maimonides, when he talks about what makes a prophet, he talks about the idea that God's rays of truth are being emanated from heaven all the time. Maimonides was way ahead of himself. It's kind of like, imagine radio waves that are, Maimonides talked about that. God is constantly sending truth to human beings. And the question is, do we have the receivers open? Or are they or the radio waves, if I could use a modern, or that's probably not even modern anymore, but you know what I mean. Bluetooth, right, is like the right, do you have your Bluetooth turned on? Because guess what? That's good. If you don't have the Bluetooth turned on, you can't receive. Oh, I love that. Thank you. That's excellent. Maimonides didn't talk about the Bluetooth, but he did talk about the idea that God, in other words, God's truth is being emanated all the time. The question is, do we have that satellite dish, or whatever, or the Bluetooth, whatever it is? Is it receiving? And that's the challenge of this time. And Shavuot is, yes, the giving of the Torah. It's the matan. It's the beginning of the giving. And our challenge as human beings is, how do we open ourselves to be a receiver of it? And that is the constant, everyday challenge we have as human beings, right? How do we turn down, and now I'm sure somebody could go, how do we turn off the static enough to be able to get the truth that's out there for us? How do we turn our lives into big satellite dishes and big receptacles of the truth and of what God wants from us? How do we do that? It's a little different for each of us. I think our tradition has a lot of deep teaching about it. And I think all of us have figured out ways in our lives. Many of us know, whether you've discovered it in different disciplines in your life, when you're tuned into the world, when you're aware, when you're really receiving a truth, and when you're so distracted by 1,000 things, it's not possible. We all know when that happens, and it's different for each of us. But I want to take a moment to look at the Aseret HaDibrot themselves on page 253 of your Siddur. I'd say the first step that Shavuot offers to us, and it has many different pieces of truth. By the way, for those who studied Psalms with me, Shavuot is particularly associated with Tehillim, because David the tradition is he was born and he died on Shavuot. So there are people who actually stay up all night on the second night studying Psalms all night long. After last night, I am not doing that. But I do recite Psalms on Shavuot to honor that tradition. Is it true or not? It doesn't matter if it's true or not. So Psalms are very deeply connected to the holiday of Shavuot, and I think they are a source, for instance, for me, and I hope for those of you who studied for me, they're a source of an example of where that truth can come through, can break through. So let's look at these Aseret HaDibrot, and in Hebrew they're on page 252, of course, in English 253, and there are 10 of them, although there are different versions, and that's a whole other study of the multiple versions of the Aseret HaDibrot. But I'm going to read them, and I'm going to, we don't have a lot of time. Okay, so here's the question I'm going to leave you with to ask you to take into the rest of Shavuot and into the rest of your lives. I'm going to look at them very briefly, and then I'm going to ask you that question. If you were to write your own Aseret HaDibrot, what would they be? In other words, if you were to write 10 brief things by which you live, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what's here, some negative and some positive, what would they be? And you'll notice they're very different. The Aseret HaDibrot, there's a huge range to them, and they're really fun to study, to try and understand them. But if you were to write 10, and I urge you to do this as an exercise, to try and write what the 10 principles by which you think the foundation of living your best life looks like. Both what are the negative commandments, so to speak, what shouldn't you do, and what should you do. But these are versions, this is the version that our tradition has. And by the way, I also condemn the people in Texas who want to put it into all the classrooms and okay, just take that, all right? I'm against that. I so deeply believe in the 10 Commandments, I don't want them to be forced on our public schools in any way. So the first of the 10, I am the eternal your God, who brought you out from the land of Egypt, the house of slavery. You have no other gods before me. So the Aseret HaDibrot begin by reminding us of history, but reminding us of the conditions of our life and offering us an understanding of the power in the world that made it possible for us to get out of a terrible situation. So that's the first one. Who would you thank? What would you thank for helping you in times of tremendous distress that have helped you move from a place of slavery or place of being enslaved to a place of freedom? Number 2, do not make images of what is in the skies above or the earth below and the waters below the earth, and think of those images as God. Do not worship things that are finite. That is idolatry. Remember that I, God, am infinite and without limit. Those who forget will doom later generations to lasting pain and suffering. Those who remember what is true and infinite will bless subsequent generations with kindness. How do we focus on what's important so that we're creating a foundation for future generations to live without, or with less, shall we say, less pain and suffering? You shall not swear falsely by the name of the eternal your God, for the eternal will not endure those who swear falsely. Don't make stuff up. Don't swear by using your religion to defend acts that are indeed blaspheming God's name. Make sure we're doing things that reflect the deepest possible truths. The next one, the 4th, is Shabbat. Remember the day of Shabbat and sanctify it. 6 days you shall work and do all your labor. The 7th day shall be Shabbat. How do you create space deeply in your life to remember that rest and renewal is an essential part of living your human life? Essential. It's not discretionary. 5, honor your parents, so shall your days be numerous on this earth. How do we honor those who are responsible for us? How do we think about those who have made it possible for us, even with their limitations? By parents, we mean the generations also have come before us, not only our biological or legal parents, but those who have parented us, those who have made it possible for us to grow and become the people we are or want to be. And now the negatives. So these have been a little mixture of positives and negatives. Now there are a bunch of negatives. Don't murder. Just don't kill people. Don't commit adultery. Don't violate oaths or commitments you make. If you make a commitment, don't violate it. Take your commitment seriously. Don't steal. Do not steal. This is kind of basic. It doesn't matter if it's small or big. It doesn't matter if somebody notices or don't notice. Don't steal whatever it is from someone else. Don't bear false witness against your neighbor. Another way of saying, don't lie about somebody else. 10, don't covet the house of your neighbor, nor covet your neighbor's spouse, or your neighbor's slave, or ox, or donkey, or anything in your neighbor. Learn contentment. Learn to appreciate what you have, and your life will be very full. Do not look around and say, that's what I don't have. So these are the 10 Aseret HaDibrot rooted in our ancient texts, and we celebrate them on Shavuot. But my urge to all of us is to use Shavuot every year. And I try and do this for myself. Some years better than others, more better. Oh my God, I am really not speaking English so well today. Every year, how do you renew? What are the commitments you would make? What are the framework that you would say? Maybe you'll have a chavruta this week with a friend, or maybe you'll sit down with somebody over the weekend and say, let's try and do this together. What would those 10 things be that would be the foundation of our receiving Torah? And may all of us experience the receiving of Torah from a place of love and joy and beauty. Shabbat Shalom, Chag Sameach.